Okay, here we go with making a coaster or square ornament. It's applicable to both. So we have our canvas, our foam core, material for the bottom, which this time, obviously, well, you could use it on an ornament as well. This is a washer, and that is, we're going to add a little weight to this so that not that a glass would stick to a fibrous piece, but let's just give it a little bit of weight to make it a little nicer to have it stay in place. So let's get started with this. I am starting on my pressing board that I have. Set all this off to the side. And then, so never cut the back piece until you've completed the front piece. Big rule. Another big rule with doing coasters, you have a set of however many. Make sure that you measure all of your coasters to make sure that you don't have one that wasn't necessarily stitch counted out the same way. To make them uniform all the way down, you measure each one, and you can tell that this is, well, maybe you can't tell there, but it is not a square coaster. It's a little rectangular by about 1/8 of an inch. So you want to make the set size the smallest coaster that you have if you want them all uniform, unless you have, like a circle and a square, depending on what you have for your coaster set. So make sure that you measure them, even if you think, oh, they look all exactly the same. Just trust me. You will appreciate not having to go back and redo something because it wasn't exactly the same. So I'm going to start from this point so that everybody can see it. We do our darts in the corners. Okay. Okay. All right. So now we're going to steam down all the edges. This is why we have the press board here, because sometimes I just assume you guys have watched my other videos and I start at a different point. This is a fiber that is extremely soft, and I can tell that it's probably going to shift out of square as I steam it. The great thing about that is that we have a piece that we're putting it on that we're going to make sure it's square. It's really difficult when you have a pillow that does not want to hold the shape that you blocked it, because there's nothing to put it into. Okay, we're not going to do these. We're not going to worry about that because we're going to basically take the tips right off of. We don't need all that waste canvas on there mucking up the corners and making them really thick. All right, so let me make sure that my taking this board isn't going to take us out of. Nope, we're still focused. If I use the autofocus, it gets all woo. Makes my eyes go wonky. I don't know about yours. Oh, this way. my extra specs back on. So now we pull this back open, and I know, why press it? Trust me. Okay. No, I think it's this way. Okay, so I don't know. It's hard with this blue canvas, but pretty sure it goes in. I gotta check it because I was silly and I didn't mark which way was up, because it's really just not even an eighth off. I think it goes this way. Nope, I was right the first time. And I think I need to shave off just a little bit more than I did. So I might need to replace that blade. Fine, bevel a little bit. Take off those points because they're just going to curl under when I bring that corner around. So I'm going to start with the top and the bottom, gluing those first because this has gone out of square. So line it up with this top edge and make sure that you have equal stitches on each side. I'm going to take my thumb piece off here. This is not going to be pretty because it is the time of year when working so much with glue and the needlepoint, doesn't matter how much lotion I put on. So I want to make sure that this is even, no waste canvas showing. Okay. So now when I turn to this end, I really have to kind of shift it over and make sure that my stitching is equal on both sides. And I'm really pulling on this. Okay. Yeah, looks good. So when you do a hanging sign, exactly the same way as this. For doing square corners of any kind. And if it's a little out of shape, you can pull it back to square. Okay. Sorry, that glue is catching on my Band-Aid. I have a little crack in my thumb. Okay, I'm just really checking to make sure that everybody's even on this side. Yep. Okay. So now we're going to do glue along here. Try to keep it away from the edge. You got plenty of canvas to turn under. Okay, and very slowly manipulate it. Make sure I'm pushing with both fingers to make sure it is on the edge. And we're getting all of that right down tight to the interior foam core. All right. Now typically, I'm going to use the long scissors for this part. I'm cutting off the extra canvas that was there. I'll do a little re-glue. Okay. I didn't miter those quite as much as I should have. To get this extra out of the corners. I'm going to leave that one that's got a lot of glue there already. I'm going to take and just put a little bit of glue there. I'm going to pinch and push it up and make it lay flat. Not all of it's cooperating because I'm trying not to use that thumb and have it catch on my band-aid. Re-lift it right back up again. Okay. So you can see very, very little bulk there. All right, let's get the rest of these side set. This one's going to be a little fuller because I didn't get rid of as much of this extra canvas that's here. And when I do that, I'm not adding any glue, I'm just using the tip to reheat what's already there. Okay, so now I'm pulling this with my finger to make sure there's plenty to wrap around of the stitching. Looks pretty good. Now we're just going to put the bead there. Now we really to kind of pull it to get that around, all the way around. We want that two facing if we can get it. Coasters are handled a lot, and so you have to do a little extra due diligence to cover mechanics and make sure that waste canvas is really pulled around. Oh. Sorry, I'm just looking at the condition of my skin. That's where the oh goodness was about, not the glue. Okay. And okay. Okay. Last corner. All right. All right. So this piece of foam core that I have does not have a straight edge anymore because it's a big hacked out piece. Now, I don't go to the corner here, because a lot of times when you have all of this, and I'll just go ahead and do it so you can see. And this is where now we would be able to tell because of this one corner, but always mark which way is up. See how it bows out a little there? You don't want to cut it like that. But you want the sides so you can have a straight edge to cut against. We're going to take it down side. Make the straight edge there. Okay. And do the opposite side. Now that we have the straight edge. Sort of. And I am making this just slightly larger, scoring that multiple times, because sometimes when I try to just push it down here and really rake it down, this end shifts over. So sometimes if you just score that top piece of cardboard that they put, it's a little easier to pull it all the way through without having your ruler shift. Okay. So when I do my round ornaments and everything, I always, after I do the trace around, I always put which way was up. Inevitably, I'll forget as I'm turning it around in front of me. Now, we do have a little special case with this one because of the fabric choice that the customer wants for her backing. I mean, it's doable. It's just trying to figure out ways to make things work when you can't sew the cording through it, because I will show you in a second, taking the tips off these corners because it's slightly bigger, and if I don't, we're going to have little, pointy elf ears out the end of this. Okay, so we're going to take our piece and measure it, make sure looks pretty even all the way around. Yes, we don't want to take it too far beyond because the fabric, well, here we go. They chose pleather. It isn't leather. It's vinyl. But it was the right color. So, well, their choice of the right color, whatever they could find. So this is what we're using. And to sew cording through this, you'll shred it. It just doesn't, just don't do it. You're just asking for a mess. So let us put this on, and we're going to use this kind of as a straight edge. I hold the piece, give myself as you can tell, it's an approximation. I never cut perfectly straight. You are more than welcome to put it down and use a rotary cutter, but this is how I have always done it, so I don't want to have to figure out the math of half an inch all the way around, etc. All right, so working with vinyl is very difficult because it wants to, when you wrap it, it wants to tear. The plastic isn't kind always. So let's see. And yes, I'm doing this with my long ones and not my nippy, because sometimes the nippy ones are a little thicker and they can tear this a little bit. I'll go to there. I'm giving myself quite a bit of leeway with how close that dart is to the corner. And I'm not starting on any one particular side, but once I do this side, I do the opposite side because I want it pulled nice and tight against each other. It's not one side then to the left or the right. It's always across. Pushing this down, making sure that this, see, you can see that it's already cracked around. And we're pulling it tight. Okay. This is where cording really hides your mechanics. Is in little tears right there. So now when we come to this side and we pull, again, we take our cut and we're gonna not go too close. It is a little cool in the studio today, so it is not helping. And I can see that I am transferring a little bit of the ink from the pen that I used. So always be careful. Make sure that I should have just used my mechanical pencil when I was doing that. But I don't like to get letter on it. So always check your fingers. Make sure you're not transferring it from your fingers. I think it was from my ruler. Okay. Last thing you need is getting that on needlepoint. Pulling the vinyl because it is actually having that nice band-aid on there is a good thing in this exact moment. My other skin is not pulling it as well. Keep pushing it down so the hot glue keeps it nice and tight. Okay. Okay. I was just going to compare my nippy scissor ends to this, but that's why I put them down. Left all my long glue sticks out of reach. Pulling it around, setting it against, did not leave enough. Should have given myself a little extra vinyl on this side. A little bit more. It's easier to turn a 1/2 inch versus 1/4 inch. Cut that out. Might not seem like a lot, but when we bring this around, it's gonna get a little ugly. A little thick. This, it doesn't matter if you get right down to the edge because we are not sewing through this. We are just going to be sewing the cording to the needle point. Okay. Down. I actually didn't get the glue close enough because, again, these sides were a little shorter than our starting sides. So we have nice thick fabric on this. Typically, I used to just put a piece of mat board here in the center so that over time, if this became wet, it wouldn't have a little divot in the center because there was a void in here. I've also had a problem where doing that, putting it together, a little bit of the glue had gotten into that gutter between that empty space between the top and the bottom, and when you pressed down on it and it relaxed a little, you'd hear click click, sticky, like clicky sound from the glue just having this little bit of a tack left to make that noise. So annoying. So very annoying to have to redo something like that because of that. It's like, are you kidding? That piece came up a little. Okay, so now yep, tiny bits, tiny bits, tiny bits, so they kind of all fold over. I was gonna do that right then, but nah. Let's hit all of the darts. Little spikies. This vinyl is not forgiving. The pleather, faux leather. I like to use some ultra suede on the bottom of these because it lends itself to not skittering across with a slick surface. I'm hoping that this, okay, using my finger that doesn't have the bandage on it. There we go. Okay, kind of try to pinch out that corner. But with this, I'm really not going to worry about having super, super pointy corners. The customer that this is for prefers a little bit thicker cording, which is actually a good thing for that one's good. It smoothed right down and there was a nice big void there for those to go into. This one has a little bit of a one, but not too horrible. Could have probably trimmed those down a little bit more. So while I might not love doing the 14 and 14 strand for certain things. This I don't mind it because it helps cover up our mechanics. The whole point of having it look professional is making sure you don't see how it's put together. If at all possible. Sometimes boo-boos happen. Okay. Looks pretty good. All right. Now, we know where our bottom is. We're going to just see. Let's make sure. Okay, is it too thick? Actually, no. So when we put this in, you can see that it's filled the void and a little bit more. Before we do this, pinching, we're manipulating our edges, right? Just like I do with my ornaments or anything. I kind of push this together, okay? Just bending it forward ever so slightly, because what, especially on this one, that'll do is it will make it so the gutter isn't so huge. We don't really mind that with this one having a little bit bigger gutter because we have a pretty thick cord to go into said gutter. So, oops, knocking everything over. But with this one especially, we need to use this glue to tack down the edges as well as the center, because these won't have glue there. This is not going to stitch into the bottom. We're not going to be sewing these two pieces together like I normally would, because I literally can't with this vinyl. I tried putting fusible interfacing on the back side very carefully, not to melt and scar this. Didn't matter. It just pulled right. The holes, just like when I cut the edges, it just started to separate and eventually grew and grew and grew. It just wasn't worth it. So I need to make sure that I have an extra glue stick or two, because I don't have my big giant ones here and I might have to reload. I'm going to leave a hole right here, okay, for my cording. Careful not to get it too close to the edge so it smushes out like you used to do with an ice cream sandwich in childhood. Start squishing out the sides. I got a lot in there, so the potential is there. All right. This on. See if it's, try to make sure it's nice and even all the way around. Push it slightly just on the edges. Make sure nobody's squishing out. Oh, I got some squishing up here, but it's okay. It's okay. Gotta hold it for a few minutes, because that much glue in there, it gets a little problematic. extra. Some there. So I want the face to be flat. And if this is going to have, I like to put it needlepoint side down. Pushing down on this so we can try to eliminate as much of the gutter on that as well. Okay. Still warm because I put a lot of glue in there, but I think we're okay. Okay. Ooh, I like the weight of that. I do. Glue schniblets on there. Okay. So we are going to actually I think I'm going to use my little one. Let's see. With that extra glue, it might be a little difficult. Measure out some thread here, some fishing line. And essentially this is exactly how I do my square ornaments as well, but I usually put a thin layer of 65-35 wool felt in between. You don't want padding in this because you don't want any give and take or setting a cup on. You don't want cushion. Okay. Just down needle this in here. Okay. Right. Back a little because, and as with always, because I always hold it right up against myself to do it. I always put the canvas to the left side, just pulling this under. And you see, I am grabbing the underside of the canvas, okay? Because I really want this to pull down under. I don't want to grab up into here because it won't hold, it'll pull it down under into the gutter more if I do it by bringing the needle up into this underside of the stitches. Okay. And I'm bringing it back down under the stitches. Okay. And even though this is my big curved needle, I don't want to do big huge stitches because I want to make sure it stays tight all the way along there. Oop, that vinyl makes it a little harder to hold on to. Okay, see how it pulls it down tight? Oop, jeez. Forget in between what pain pleather is. Okay. It's like watching paint dry. I know, I'm sorry. Didn't quite make it under on that one, but see, and as you pull it in, see how it just goes right down deep in that gutter. Exactly the way we want it. Might as well fast forward because this is as exciting as it gets. Kind of bugged that up, didn't I? You know, this is what happens when I'm trying to kind of rush. Ah, so sorry. The glue that is in this corner is being a challenge. One thing when I put cording on, you see me constantly twisting it because if I just hold it the same way all the way around, it gets looser, it untwists. I want to try to make sure that all of my segments are the same distance all the way around. And also, I can manipulate which angle I'm inserting it into by tightening and loosening it. Careful. Almost got that. Push it in as you're going so it gets nice and tight down in there. Push it in. Vinyl really fights holding on to it. All right, and put a little knot in. Okay. There. Kind of push it down so it's on the underside. Oh yeah. Come on. Okay. About a 1/2 inch past. Because I'm going to twirl that up a little bit. Tighten it. Cut. Just double checking that I wasn't making the cut on the wrong side of my knot. All right, so it's going to be about there, so I want to make this flat. It's hard when trying not to use my Band-Aid finger. I want this laying flat like that. That's why I made sure I knew how tight the angle was, because I want it to be nice and flat and not try to put it in like this. That doesn't work. Well, you can make it work. Doesn't mean it will be easy. So now we're going to just open that up, kind of shove that in like that. Oh yeah, get in there. Just going to push that along inside there. Okay, push, push. Keep pushing it down. I made it a little too long. Okay, it'll all squish in there. Okay. Keep pushing it down, and there's decent void there. So I'm going to take this little bit, push that there, pull that up like that. Pull that around a little. Pull this up and around a little. Now this knot was there. And I'll just go through. There. Okay. Push that back around again. Go through there. Okay. This would be so much easier if we could pull this into the back piece, but thank you, pleather, we cannot. Push that back down in. We've been messing with it. Okay. I gotta think how I gotta do this. So we came up through there. And we're going to... Oh, do I dare try it? I know better. I'm going to have to... See, we don't always... Even if you're a professional, you have to monkey shine things together. I think we'll try to come up under here. See how that pulls it. Nope. See, I'm going to see that. Okay. How do I want to do that? Because I need to have that. I'm going to slide back down behind it. Okay. I'm going to come up and under it and wheedle in there. Okay, that should work. Push it back down so we can pull. Oh, that worked. Yay. Okay, that worked. And even if it doesn't look like it did, it will. It will. Push that back down in. Push that side down in. Take that. This. We're going to do the exact same thing. Marrying cording together is probably one of the most difficult parts, can be, of doing these pieces. Okay. I'm going to pull that back up there like that. Okay. All right, I'm going to take it back down here again. Try not to, I keep catching just like one little fiber here and there. Okay. So that's held down. That's held down. That's held down. Now I'm going to work my way back up again. Through that. Okay. I would totally understand if, and I'm bringing it behind, okay. I'm catching the needle point right behind where I had it. Try to get it as far down, and I am up in the needle point now. I have to be. Rolling it over. Yeah. And I'm going to go backwards. Into this one. That. Yep. Way up under. Till we hit the back of the needle point again. I want to come up right there. Just stop grabbing that. Yes. Yeah, you guys are looking at me going, just glue it. Well, yeah, you could. Especially for a coaster. It's gonna get wet, but I'm trying to show you the way to not do that the best that you can if you are a non-gluer. And still have it turn out the way you want it to. So again, we're going back all the way back behind this cording and coming up in the face, first stitch along that edge so that it is secure. Okay, that's not gonna come out. And we'll manipulate it and bury it, marry it back together again a little bit better. Okay, in a second. Let me finish this. I'm just going to catch the edge and I'm going to pull this back a little bit so I can see where I'm at. Come on the back side of that cording underneath. Push, push, push. Okay, and then I can just grab this and make my knot back between. Like I said, much easier to do this when you don't have to use vinyl. Leather you can get away with going through it, but it's just as difficult. You gotta be really careful, really careful that you don't tear it. You would think that, oh, I can just, no. The leather you have to use for the back is so much thinner. That's why I like an ultra suede. It gives you that same look. Well, obviously not shiny. So now we're going to bring that tail right to the front. Pull it tight. Snip it close without hitting your stitching, and it'll just disappear back in. Okay, so then you just come here and you do your pushing again. Grab this and push that. Almost looks like a crochet move there. Okay, we gotta just push this part back under and pull that part forward, and then we push all of that and under. Okay, push all of that back down. Then we gotta come pull some of it out. This needs to come out. You need to behave. Go back. There. It's a little rough. I'm gonna have to work on that. Okay. There is a corner we do need to address though. I can see my mechanics here. I'm going to lift this up, and what has happened is there is not enough glue to the point there. This is where I have to utilize my It's called Fabri-Tac. Okay. I could try to squeeze some hot glue in there, but I don't want to take a chance. It's much easier to use this because it gives you a little more play time. We're going to squeeze some of this in there. Okay. And I'm going to, I gotta pull this cording forward. And this is solely because of having to use the vinyl. Okay. So we're going to take that. If I was going to use, and I'm going to grab into the front of the needlepoint and I'm going to pull against the back and get that to pull that. I'm pulling, like putting the pin in like at an angle and then wrenching it backwards, okay, to pull those two sides together. All right. Okay. All right. So this has to wait and dry. You don't want to wait that long. I'm going to let it sit there for a while. But here is our coaster. Okay. And that's just basically how you do a square piece, how you get those corners nice and tight. And if it was an ornament, you would have your meat place at the top, push your thing, your loop in, and done. I hope that helps you guys out. I'm going to end up playing with this marrying end because I am not loving it, but it'll get there. So good luck, and I hope that this really helped you guys out. Okay, there we go. As good as it's gonna get. Not too bad. Done.